contrivance, because we apply the contrivance, but then the self-liberation is self-liberation, it's a spontaneous liberation. It's like someone who is walking and you put your foot in front and he trips and collapses. The same happens here. Delusion collapses. And when delusion collapses, the two conditions of thod, which is the Dharmakaya, manifest. So this is the essence of structure. Then, if the thoughts are charged with a high intensity of energy, we develop a capacity to attain self-liberation of thought when the thoughts are charged with that same level of intensity. So this is what is called passions. Passions are thoughts. Passions are thoughts that are charged with a strong emotional intensity, with a strong energy. This is a passion. So if I think, this is beautiful, I want to have it, but then this is not a passion, this is a thought. But if I say, this is beautiful, I really want to have it, this is a passion. And if I say, that is ugly, that's not a passion. But if I say, yeah, this is a passion, yeah? Okay. When someone is practicing texture a lot, he develops a capacity of self-liberation, of a spontaneous liberation. If all the time it's ever easier for thoughts to liberate, we become more and more familiar with the Dharmakaya and with the consequent self-liberation of thought. And if we apply a practice in which, for example, we experience intense dread, and we apply the instructions and that dread self-liberates, then imagine that we are practitioners of this practice chod, where the practitioner goes to the charnel ground and all of that, and then at the point of utmost dread, he applies the instructions and all the tensions instantly collapse, as though the string that was tying the firewood had broken and the firewood was falling totally relaxed. This is the essence of structure, and it happens also in that practice. And when that happens, all the energy, all that intensity neutralizes delusion. So the amount of delusion, of propensities that are neutralized is much greater. And whenever you get to the same point of intensity, emotional intensity, and also of energetic volume determining the scope of awareness. This is key. This is what is called one of the senses of Tigle in Tibetan. When we have little energetic volume determining the scope of awareness, we have a tunnel-like mind, consciousness. Yeah? We see the object, the figure, we single out the figure, and the ground seems to be half. We seem to be half unaware of it. We don't. It's not really. It's as though it were in a penumbra of attention. Yes. But then, when we increase the energetic volume, our awareness becomes more and more and more and more panoramic, until it becomes totally panoramic. And then that means we have a very strong energetic volume. And if we have also intense dread, and this dread goes up to a certain threshold, the maximum possible, and it liberates there, we can be sure that whenever we reach the same degree of energetic volume and of emotional intensity of dread, it will liberate spontaneously without us having to do anything. We won't even need to look at the thought. So here liberation is even more spontaneous, because the liberation was spontaneous in structure, but it required contrivance. It required looking at the thought. At this point, it doesn't require even looking at the thought. It just goes to this point and it liberates. Okay. So the next stage of the practice is Togel. So structure is called katak structure. Katak is a synonym of essence. It means primordial purity, which is emptiness. It's the same as essence. And the Lundrup Togel. Lundrup is the combination of nature and energy, but Lundrup means spontaneous. So in Togel, visions of Rolpa energy manifest. This is the key of the practice. The person goes into a dark room. Well, first he deals with other methods, and after that, when he begins to see tigles, spheres of light of many colors, once he begins to see them, then he can go into a dark room, and there we could add an optical element which Newton described in his optics, but which I will not describe here. And that will cause visions of light to manifest and become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But these visions have a really weird dimensionality, wondrous dimensionality. Jagiellonian, the teacher, the master in the Dzogchen community, was practicing Togel, and he had this vision of 5 spheres, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. It's impossible that a sphere is next to another sphere and there is no empty space between them. Yeah, it's clear? Then because it was so wondrous, he tried to draw it, and then he realized it was impossible to draw it because the spheres were not overlapping, but there was no empty space between them. So it was impossible to draw them. The dimensionality of Rolpa energy is totally different from the dimensionality of cell energy, which conditions our experience, and which we take as something given and absolute, and we cannot even imagine that there could be something different. It is partly because of this dimensionality that these visions, when they reach a certain size, they don't allow the mental subject to experience itself as separate from them. Because this dimensionality doesn't allow it. And then also, if a vision of a Buddha, peaceful Buddha manifests, it begins to irritate you after some time. At the beginning, you may feel it wonderful. You shouldn't feel it wonderful because then you get attached and you damage the practice totally. If you are ready to practice Togel, you won't become attached to the vision. But it will remain and remain, persist and persist and persist. And at some point, you will try to produce a reaction, but this will continue immutable. And then you begin to develop irritation. This is dvesa in Sanskrit. And this is the basis of Togel. Then when I develop this, then the delusion of feeling separate from the vision turns into conflict, and it goes to that threshold and it liberates. And then again we are in total pleasure fused in the vision. Total pleasure. And then we experience ourselves as separate from the vision, and again, total pleasure. This is called the wrathful activity of the dharmata. The trova dynamics of the dharmata. The dharmata is the true condition of reality, is our true condition projected outside. As it happens, according to Tibetan Buddhism, in the after death, in the bardo of dharmata, where all these visions are seen. Here we are not dead, we are alive, but we enter the bardo of dharmata because the visions that normally manifest in that bardo are manifesting. We are in that bardo alive. And then these dynamics occur. If we don't have a capacity of spontaneous liberation, we cannot do this practice because we would go crazy. But if we have a capacity of spontaneous liberation, a high one, then this practice will exhaust samsara automatically, because I cannot remain in delusion, because as soon as I experience myself as separate from division, it will totally spontaneously dissolve division. And then the threshold will be ever lower, so at some point there will not be even a moment of anguish. And then it will continue to be lower and lower. And then, now we can explain a little bit more. In this practice, we have two things which are very important, two concepts which are very important, are in Tibetan Semni and Chonyi. In Sanskrit, they are, Chonyi is dharmata, the one that we already used, and the other one is chitata. They are the nature of phenomena and the nature of mind. The nature of phenomena is our true condition projected outside, and the nature of mind depends on the physical organism. So, when we come to a point at which, as soon as we feel separate from division, this delusion dissolves, and we are again integrated in total pleasure with division, and again it happens. We are still integrated again, and until the point when no longer this illusion of a mental subject separate from division will arise. And at that moment, division, this is called the exhaustion of vision. The fourth vision of Togel is called exhaustion of vision. And then the visions are no longer images, but a mass of light. And then, when no longer a mental subject seemingly separate from division arises, then the chitata fuses with the dharmata. And then the physical body dissolves in light. And the vision acquires the shape of the physical body. And this is called the total transference. And then this body of light can continue to teach the people who have, no one will do that before his Buddha activities are completed. So you do practice of Togel, and then you go into the world to teach, and then when you are ready, you know you have to die now, then you go again into the dark room and you achieve this total integration, and then a body of light manifests that will continue to give teachings to whoever has the capacity to contact this body of light. People with very high capacity who have contact with Rolpa energy. Then this is called the total transference. But if we don't attain this total transference while we are alive, but we are already very near, then we die, but we don't go through the bardo of death, because we were in the bardo of dharmata, so we continue in the bardo of dharmata, and in a lapse of 7 days we complete the process, and then the body, the corpse will become light, but the nails and the hair will remain in that case, because they have no feeling. We don't feel, that's why we cut our nails and hair, and we don't shout, ah! Yes? And because they are always growing outside, they are execrations. So, but before that, and this is very interesting, before we reach such a level of integration, and we achieve the body of light, or the body of light of the total transference, before that, when we are ready to go into the world, because we already advance in the fourth vision to a certain degree, the three types of manifestation of energy overlap. You understand overlapping? Yes. And, or in a way, they fuse. And then the cell energy for that person begins to exhibit the wondrous dimensionality of Rolpa energy. Then we have an example of Milarepa. He was with his disciple Rechumpa, and a very big hailstorm was falling, and then Rechumpa took shelter on the sliding rock, an abri. And Milarepa, he didn't see where he go because he wasn't around. Then the hailstorm ended, and he was hearing Milarepa's voice singing, but he wouldn't see Milarepa. And then he tried to follow the voice, and then he followed the voice until an empty yak horn that was dry, and he looked inside, and Milarepa was inside the yak horn, and his body had not become small, it was full size, and the yak horn had not become bigger, it was his normal size, and yet Milarepa, full size, was inside a very small horn. This is also illustrated with the mirror. For example, in a mirror, if we put an ant in front of the mirror, it perfectly reflects the ant. But if we take the mirror away very far, it can perfectly reflect Mount Kailash, the whole chain of Everest mountains, and if we give it to an astronaut, it will reflect the Earth, and if he puts it in the opposite direction, it will reflect the whole of the galaxy. So this is called the wisdom of quality. And the other example is that if I put, for example, if I have one person, if I have one toilet, very small toilet, no more than one person can go in at the same time unless they are contortionists. Yeah? So one person has to go out for the other to come in. A mirror is different because now I can see only my face, but now you can see many faces in it. And then you can see all the people of the world if they go together, and then you will put the mirror sufficiently far away. So this is called the wisdom of quantity. And this one is illustrated when it manifests at the level of Rolpa energy with Milarepa's cremation. Even though there was only one corpse, it was cremated in many places at the same time. So we believe that these are miracles, but these are not miracles. Atisha Dipankara Shrinyana, once it says in the book of the tradition founded by his disciples, it says that once he put his perfect body in a mold for making satsa, which are some small things that are made by pressure with clay and ashes and so on, and without making his body smaller or making the satsa mold bigger. And then when he came out, he told his disciples, I could swear in front of all realized beings of India and Tibet that what you have seen today is not a miracle. It's simply the true condition of reality. So we can see there are no miracles. Miracles are the perception ordinary people have of the manifestation of a type of energy they are not familiar with in the energy they are familiar with. This is what is normally seen as miracles. It's a little bit difficult to understand or even to believe if we apply the Dzogchen teaching and we realize that everything that is said in the Dzogchen teaching happens in our experience. then we come to a point where we have no doubt even about these strange things like getting the body in a yak's horn without the body becoming small or the yak's horn becoming big, or like attaining the body of light. If I had heard this before I began to practice Dzogchen, probably I would have run away because I was agnostic. And my father and my elder brother, they like very much the marvelous, that which is beyond the ordinary. And this is the only thing I felt eerie with that a little bit. That was the only aspect of their things which I felt a little weird about. And I didn't like that. And then, when I realized that Dzogchen worked, and I understood the principle behind everything on the basis of my practice, then I realized that, yes, in Venezuela they say, I don't believe in witches, but they certainly fly. Okay, so by explaining the path, we have come to the explanation of the fruit. Then, what are the realizations of Dzogchen? We said that when we apprehend the true condition of that energy, the energy of the sphere of the mental, the Dharmakaya manifests. If we manage to allow all thoughts to self-liberate as they arise, until the point at which we have neutralized all propensities for them to arise, we will attain the Dharmakaya, but not Rupakaya. Then when